We want to get back to you in a second, but this is such a controversial subject. The phone lines are lighting up. Samantha from West Virginia, your question.
Yes, ma'am. I just had I was wondering if there's any previous history of family violence in the Benoit home.
There actually allegedly is, at least according to the late Nancy, who filed for divorce in 2003 and sought a protection order. But let's go to Wendy Murphy about that, former prosecutor and victims' rights attorney. Generally, whenever you've taken out a protection order against someone, it is a danger signal, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, it's a legal requirement. You have to prove that you're at risk of being injured. Usually it's because you've been injured already and there have been threats made or there's some reason to fear, and so you go to court to get a protective order because you are really worried about it happening again. This is a woman who, like so many battered women, though, backed down, retracted the restraining order and stayed married to the guy, and that doesn't mean she was wrong. Women sometimes feel like failures when they don't stick to it, but they shouldn't feel that way. And frankly, this is going to sound a little strange, Jane, because I really do care about victims more than anything. But the fact that he had trouble in terms of domestic violence in the past does not mean that's the reason he took the lives of his wife and son this time around. It really could have been the drugs trumped everything that might have been violent about him in the past.
Well,
you know what? I got a soft spot for this guy because the way I look at the
you have
ages
a soft
of the men,
spot?
I do. Let me tell you why. I know.
But
I got a soft spot because I think these exploited, not unlike the way I complain that women like Anna Nicole Smith are exploited. Look, they're pumped up, they're used, they're battered, they're tossed around, and then they're spat out. Literally dumped when they age out of the right physicality and so forth. This is the ultimate exploitation of men, to cause them so much grief and harm, physical abuse of their bodies with the promotion of the use of these drugs to make them look like beefy guys. It's so unfair to them, and I think it can cause depression and rage. Forget the steroids for a minute. This exploitation of men is probably a bigger problem than anyone's willing to admit.
That's so funny because we usually talk about the exploitation of women. Let's go to Dr. Susan Lipkin, psychologist and author of Preventing Hazing. We have been looking at this video of the horrific slams and body slams that these guys have to endure day after day, year after year. And anybody who's not been able to jog past their 40s can relate to somebody who may be not able to just keep this going. What kind of stress does that put on a man who's been a star and who's trying to stay on top and is trying to cut back on his days to help his family as well?
Well, I think it's obviously very strong, and I think the whole lifestyle is stressful, but something else was happening here. He must have had a feeling of depression, that there was no way out and no exit. He was hopeless, he was helpless, and for a fighter and somebody like this who was able to fight his way out of everything up till now, that is a strong statement. He felt that there was no other choice, I believe, and it was probably a combination of drugs and depression, and who knows what the stress was on Friday that made him pop.
Well, as we like to look for simple solutions and one answer to why somebody kills somebody or commits suicide, it's usually multi-determined, which is a fancy way of saying there are a lot of reasons. So right. I completely agree with you, Doctor. Paul Batista, your knowledge of the human condition as a noted defense attorney, I mean, let's take a look at some of the other circumstances here. The fact that this wrestler was in his 40s, his wife was ill, she had had a neck injury, his son had a physical and mental disability. Look, even in this photo, even in this publicity photo, he appears to have a black eye. So the toll that this was taking, he apparently did cut his days back from 250 touring days a year to 118, and his wife was demanding more, and he may have felt, I can't stay in this business, and cut back anymore. It's gonna put me out of business.
Yeah, this is clearly a young man, 40 is young, who was under a lot of stress, famous, at the top of his game in many ways, yet with a son whose physical condition was not great. Fragile X is not a good condition to be in. He was obviously taking time, Chris Benoit, away from those things that had made him famous, those things that had made him most effective, turned them to his family. He was obviously using steroids. There's no question about that. The legality is a different issue. And that is certainly an explosive mix of emotional and pharmacological problems that this young man was trying to deal with.
I think we have to jump in here. You say there's no question. There is a question. We really do have to wait for the toxicology reports because there's a lot of people at the WWE who are like, no steroids, and they're all upset. So I think we have to err on the side of caution. But But you're right. I mean, it appears that he has a history of having used steroids in the past, possibly because the doctor was prescribing him for low testosterone levels, which is an indication of possible steroid use. So we'll come right back. We're going to stay on the why. Why did this happen?
The memorial outside the Benoit family home continues to grow as more fans come by wanting to pay their respects, but also seeking answers to their questions, especially what caused this tragedy and could it have been avoided. Chris Benoit worked out here at his Peachtree City gym just a day before investigators say he murdered his wife Nancy. Sources say the gym has surveillance video of Benoit inside, doing his usual workout and socializing with other people. Fayette County investigators say they are aware of this video and could be interested in it, if for nothing else, to observe Benoit's state of mind.
I'm Jane Velez Mitchell in tonight for Nancy Grace. What went so horribly wrong in the world of pro wrestling champ Chris Benoit that authorities believe he killed his wife and son and then himself? Was it roid rage? Was he even taking steroids? Or did he feel like the world was just coming in on him as he got older in a very tough profession, also grappling with a disabled son and a physically ill wife? So many causes. We are going to go right now to the very patient, to Detective Lieutenant Steve Rogers of the Nutley, New Jersey Police Department. Thank you for being so patient, sir. Listen, there are so many emails coming into the Nancy Grace show from people, fans of Benoit's, who simply state this can't be true. This has to be some kind of triple murder. There's got to be some other bad guy out there who really did this. Do authorities have to keep their options open, or can they just conclude what they appear to be concluding?
Jane, the options are wide open. The police will think out of the box. They're going to be looking into the theory, was this really a suicide murder? Murder-suicide, or was this in fact a triple homicide? There are a lot of elements to this case that may lead to that theory of a triple homicide. And until they put all the pieces of this puzzle together, no one can draw a conclusion as to what really happened at that crime scene.
Well, perhaps a lot of the suspicion stems from this extremely bizarre entry that went onto Wikipedia, Nicole Parton, investigative reporter, about 13 hours before the bodies were discovered. There's a lot of new information about that. Tell us what the latest is.
Right. Apparently, this anonymous person posted this on Wikipedia, stating that the reason Mr. Benoit did not show up for an appearance on Sunday evening was because his wife was dead. As you said, 13 hours before the body was found. Since then, this anonymous person has posted a statement saying they apologized. They had absolutely no idea that, in fact, the wife was dead, had been murdered, that this was just posted based on rumors and speculations that this person had read off the internet, and says that it is just a horrific coincidence that the statement was posted.
What a coincidence that you're kind of guessing or pretending that somebody has died, and then it turns out that somebody has, in fact, been found dead. And I'm sure that authorities are investigating that one. Bret Hart, former WWE wrestler and a good friend of Chris Benoit's. I want to ask you about the canceled appearances that he was sending text messages about. The sense I got, and it was just my gut feeling, was that it was so horrific for him to cancel these appearances, that to even say no to one appearance feels like the end of the world. Do you think there might have been any correlation between them arguing, which apparently he and his wife were arguing over him cutting back his schedule, and then apparently she dies and then he fails to show up over the weekend for these appearances? Do you see anything there brewing?
Yeah, I do. I think you might find something there. He may have been in a tug-of-war where he was trying to hold on to his position, maybe stay at the very top of wrestling, and there may have been pressure on him to, you know, be more available to longer tours on the road and to be more of a primetime player sort of thing on the circuit. And at the same time, his wife might have been pulling him the other direction, saying, you know, because I can only imagine the difficulties in raising a child that has autism, and I'm sure it must be a real workload. And she may have been overwhelmed by all that and needed Chris's help, and maybe through just, you know, the way they fought over it, maybe that was